20 tons. That's what China's central bank just added to its gold reserves in a single month, the biggest jump in nearly 3 years. 21 months straight of buying, and July just blew past every one of them. Here's the thing nobody's telling you. That number isn't the real number. Independent analysts who track gold flowing through London's markets have caught China buying up to 10 times more than what it actually reports. 10 times. So if the official count says 20 tons, the real total could be closing in on 200. And that gap between what Beijing admits to and what's actually moving is exactly the part every major outlet keeps skipping over. Not because it's hard to find, because almost nobody's bothered to ask the question. We did. And what we found changes how you should be reading every gold headline from here on out. Here's what's coming. First, the actual July numbers and why they're already the biggest miss in years. And it gets bigger. Because this isn't a one-month blip, it's a pattern analysts have been tracking for years, one where China's official gold count and its real gold count almost never match. And it gets bigger, because while everyone's watching the reserve report, Beijing just quietly opened a new gold trading hub in Hong Kong, built specifically to move bullion outside the dollar system entirely. And it gets bigger still, because the end game here isn't gold for gold's sake. It's about breaking the dollar's grip on how the world trades, settles debt, and stores wealth. Stick around. This one connects further than you think. If you're new here, this channel breaks down what's actually happening in gold, silver, and global macro, the stuff buried in central bank filings, trade data, and reports most people never read past the headline. We go through the official numbers so you don't have to, and we flag it clearly whenever something doesn't add up. If you want to stay ahead of moves like this one before they hit the mainstream cycle, go ahead and subscribe. We cover central bank gold activity, as it happens. Core data reveal. Let's start with what China actually told the world. According to official data from the People's Bank of China, the country's gold reserves rose by 640,000 ounces in July, roughly 20 tons, pushing the buying streak to a 21st consecutive month without a single pause. 21 months. That's nearly 2 full years of uninterrupted accumulation, and July's addition was the largest single jump since October 2023, back when gold was trading in a completely different price environment. Put a dollar figure on it, and the scale gets even clearer. The value of China's official gold reserves climbed to $306.35 billion by the end of July, up from $303.72 billion just a month earlier, a jump of nearly $3 billion in reserve value in 30 days. Zoom out further, and the total holdings now sit at a record 2,366 tons of gold, sitting inside the vaults of the People's Bank of China. That's not a small stockpile. That places China among the largest sovereign gold holders on the planet, and the trajectory only points one direction, up. On paper, this is already a headline. 21 straight months of buying. A near 3-year high in monthly volume. A fresh record in total reserves. Any other year, that story runs on its own and nobody questions it further. But here's where it gets interesting. Every number I just gave you, the 20 tons, the $306 billion, the 2,366 ton total, all of it comes from one place. China's own official disclosure, self-reported, released on Beijing's timeline, using Beijing's methodology with zero independent verification behind it. And when you're talking about a government that has historically controlled exactly what the outside world gets to see about its financial position, that detail matters more than it sounds like it should. Because the official number was never meant to be the whole picture. It's the visible layer, the part China chooses to show. What sits underneath that layer, what analysts have spent years trying to reconstruct from market flows the government doesn't control, tells a very different story. And that's where this actually gets uncomfortable. For years, the assumption was simple. When a central bank publishes its gold reserves, that's the number. You might question the strategy behind it, but not the figure itself. Analysts built models around it. Traders priced expectations off it. Journalists reported it as fact, full stop. That assumption just broke. Because when researchers started digging into where the world's physical gold was actually moving, not what governments were claiming, but what was flowing through London's over-the-counter market, the largest and least transparent gold trading hub on Earth, the numbers stopped lining up. Independent analysis tracking institutional and central bank buying through that London flow found something striking. In prior periods, China's real purchases appeared to run roughly 10 times higher than what it officially disclosed. Not double, not a rounding error, 10 times. Picture that gap in real terms. If the official report says 3 tons bought in a given month, the market flow evidence pointed to something closer to 27. A number that large doesn't fall through the cracks by accident. It suggests a government making a deliberate choice about what gets disclosed and what gets routed through channels the outside world simply can't trace back to Beijing. And once you see that pattern once, you can't unsee it. because it reframes every official filing since. If the 20 tons in July figure sits on the same reporting framework that's previously understated real buying by a factor of 10, the real question isn't how much gold did China buy this month. It's how much of China's buying will we never see in any filing at all? That's the pivot. Official transparency. The thing every analyst, every trader, every headline has been quietly relying on is no longer something you can take at face value. And once transparency itself is in question, the story stops being about 1 month's numbers. It becomes about why a government with the world's second largest economy would want its real gold position hidden in the first place. That answer takes us somewhere much bigger than a monthly report. Geographic or sector escalation. So if the reserve number is only half the story, what's the other half actually building toward? Follow the money past Beijing's vaults, and it stops looking like a stockpiling strategy. It starts looking like infrastructure. China has been quietly constructing a gold storage and trading hub in Hong Kong, not a vault to hide bullion, but a facility designed specifically to internationalize its gold market. Alongside it, new physical delivery contracts denominated in yuan, not dollars, allow gold to change hands and settle without a single dollar ever entering the transaction. That's not a minor technical detail, that's the entire point. Think about what this actually solves for Beijing. For decades, if a country wanted to trade gold on a major exchange, settle in a globally trusted currency, or store bullion somewhere with deep institutional infrastructure, the paths mostly ran through Western-controlled systems, London, New York, the dollar. China's new setup offers an alternative path entirely. A trading partner in the Middle East, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, anywhere looking to reduce dollar exposure, can now settle a gold transaction in yuan, store it in Hong Kong, and never touch the dollar-based financial system at all. That's the difference between one country building a stockpile and one country building a system other countries can plug into. A stockpile is defensive. It protects Beijing. A settlement system is offensive. It invites the rest of the world in. And once other central banks, sovereign funds, or major trading partners start running gold transactions through that yuan-based infrastructure instead of the dollar-based one, every trade that shifts over is a trade the dollar no longer touches. This is where the story stops being about China's internal reserves and starts becoming about global market architecture. Because infrastructure like this doesn't get built for internal accounting, it gets built to be used by other governments, other central banks, other institutions looking for a way out of dollar dependency without saying so publicly. Hong Kong isn't just a vault, it's an on-ramp. And once that on-ramp exists, the question isn't whether other countries start using it, it's how many already have, and how far this reaches once the biggest players in the room decide to follow. And China isn't running this play alone. Look at Russia, and the pattern is almost identical. Aggressive, sustained gold accumulation paired with a systematic move away from dollar-denominated trade, accelerated hard after 2022, when sanctions made dollar exposure a liability instead of a convenience. Look at India, now one of the largest central bank gold buyers on earth, building reserves while quietly expanding rupee-based trade agreements with key partners. Different countries, different currencies, same underlying move, less dollar, more gold, more alternative settlement infrastructure. That's not a coincidence. That's a coordinated shift in how major economies are choosing to hold and move value. And China sits at the center of it, not just as a participant, but as the country building the plumbing everyone else can eventually use. Here's where it gets even more layered. Foreign policy researchers who track U.S. Treasury data closely, including analysis associated with the Council on Foreign Relations, have raised a separate but related question, whether China's dollar holdings are actually shrinking or whether they're simply being moved off the official books. Need source? Confirm current framing? The theory goes that instead of a clean, disclosed retreat from the dollar, some of China's dollar exposure may be shifting into less transparent state-linked banks and investment vehicles, reducing what shows up in the official reserve count without reducing the government's actual dollar exposure. If that's accurate, it means the same pattern we just saw with gold. Official numbers understating the real position may be happening on the dollar side too. Not de-dollarization in the clean headline sense, something closer to relocation. Moving exposure into corners of the system that don't get reported the same way, don't get the same scrutiny, and don't show up when analysts run the standard numbers. Put those two patterns side by side, undisclosed gold buying on one hand, potentially undisclosed dollar repositioning on the other, and this stops looking like one central bank's monthly filing. It starts looking like a deliberate, multi-country institutional strategy, with China building the infrastructure and other major economies quietly falling in line behind it, which raises the obvious question, if this is happening at the institutional level, what does it actually mean for you? what it means for the viewer. So, step back from central banks and settlement systems for a second, because none of this matters if it doesn't connect to you. Here's the part that actually should. If you've ever pulled up a headline number, official gold reserves, monthly central bank buying, that kind of figure, and used it to gauge where demand is heading, you were working from a picture that's likely incomplete. Not wrong, necessarily. Just partial. If the real buying from major players like China runs meaningfully higher than what gets disclosed, then the demand side of the gold market has been understated in the numbers most people actually see. And demand you can't see is demand you can't price in until it shows up somewhere you can't ignore. That matters most for anyone already holding gold or silver or thinking about it as a hedge against currency risk or broader financial uncertainty. The entire logic behind holding a hedge like that rests on understanding the forces actually driving the market, not just the forces a government chooses to publish. If institutional demand is larger and more persistent than official filings suggest, that's a structural factor worth knowing about, regardless of what you decide to do with it. This isn't a call to buy, sell, or panic. It's a call to read the numbers differently going forward. When you see a central bank report a modest monthly gold purchase, treat that as a floor, not a ceiling, a confirmed minimum, not the full story. The gap between reported and real activity has, historically, run large. Assuming it's close to zero this time is the riskier assumption, not the cautious one. Whatever you decide about your own exposure to gold or silver, do it with that context in hand, not because a headline told you a number, but because you understand what that number is actually likely to be hiding. And once you're thinking about it that way, the bigger macro picture, what this all means for the system these hedges are protecting against, comes into sharper focus. Zoom all the way out, and this stops being a China story or even a de-dollarization story. It becomes a question about the entire architecture of how the world stores value, and that question has been building for longer than most people realize. Since 2022, central banks worldwide have collectively bought more than 1,000 tons of gold every single year. That's not a China anomaly. That's a global institutional behavior shift sustained across multiple years, through multiple interest rate cycles, through periods when gold was expensive and periods when it wasn't. Central banks don't move in that kind of lockstep by accident. When dozens of monetary authorities across different regions, different politics, and different economic circumstances all start accumulating the same asset at the same elevated pace, that's not noise. That's a signal about how those institutions are collectively rethinking what a safe reserve asset actually looks like, and the price reflects it. Spot gold is currently trading above $4,310 an ounce, a level that would have sounded implausible not that many years ago, climbing alongside, not despite, this sustained wave of institutional buying. Price and accumulation moving together like that tends to mean the buying isn't speculative. It's structural. Here's the important part, though. This isn't a single dramatic break, a headline event, or a switch flipping overnight. Reserve currency shifts don't work that way. They're slow. They unfold over years, sometimes decades, as institutions gradually rebalance exposure, build alternative infrastructure, and quietly reduce reliance on any one currency or system. What we're looking at with China's reserves, the Hong Kong infrastructure, and the parallel moves from Russia and India isn't the moment the dollar's role changes. It's one visible data point in a much longer, much slower process that's already been underway for years and will likely keep unfolding for years more. That's actually what makes it worth paying attention to, not less. Slow, structural shifts are the ones that reshape markets permanently, precisely because most people dismiss them as too gradual to matter, right up until the cumulative effect becomes impossible to ignore. The central banks buying gold right now aren't betting on a crisis next quarter. They're positioning for a different kind of financial system over the next decade. And that repositioning is happening in full view, one monthly filing at a time, filings that, as we've already seen, may not even be telling the whole story. Let's talk about what this actually means for price behavior, because the macro story only matters if it translates into something you can watch play out. Right now, spot gold is holding above $4,310 an ounce, the level we've been using as our anchor throughout this video. That price didn't get there in a vacuum. It's been built on top of 21 straight months of confirmed central bank buying, a price environment where accumulation and price have risen together rather than fighting each other. Need source. Current technical levels, support, resistance, near-term price targets from a named analyst, past bank. That's the piece we'd want a named analyst or institutional desk to weigh in on before assigning any specific number to where this goes next, and we're not going to guess at a target just to fill space. What we can say with more confidence is about structure. not price points. When a market's demand base includes not just disclosed institutional buying, but a meaningful layer of buying that never shows up in the official numbers, that tends to act as a floor underneath price rather than a ceiling above it. Demand you can see gets priced in gradually. Demand that stays hidden until it surfaces tends to show up as sudden, hard-to-explain strength, the kind of move that looks irrational in the moment and makes complete sense in hindsight once the real buying activity eventually comes to light. That's the dynamic worth watching from here. Not a specific number to circle on a chart, but a structural condition. Sustained, understated institutional demand sitting underneath a market that's already trading at record highs. Markets built on that kind of foundation don't necessarily move smoothly. They can move in bursts, react sharply to confirmation of buying nobody previously priced in, and behave less predictably than a market where all the major players are disclosing their true positions. Keep that in mind the next time gold makes an unexpected move that doesn't seem to match the headlines. There may be a very simple explanation. You just won't find it in the official filing. This isn't fringe theory. It's research that's come directly from inside major financial institutions. Goldman Sachs precious metals analyst Lena Thomas built out earlier analysis connecting China's combined official and estimated unofficial gold demand directly to gold's price trajectory, arguing that relentless central bank buying, visible and hidden, was a primary driver behind the metal's sustained climb, even when skeptics insisted a strong dollar should have capped it. And this isn't just one analyst's private theory floating in isolation. The World Gold Council, the industry's own established authority on gold market data, publishes monthly updates specifically tracking China's official buying patterns, import flows, and reserve changes. Their own published research has repeatedly flagged accelerating official purchases alongside shifting demand elsewhere in the market, the same broad pattern independent flow analysis has pointed to for years. When an internal Wall Street analyst and the industry's own established data authority are both circling the same story from different angles, that's not speculation. That's convergence. Two very different sources, two very different methods, landing in the same place, and that's exactly the kind of confirmation this story needed. So let's bring it all together. China just reported a record 2,366 tons of official gold reserves, its biggest monthly addition in nearly 3 years. But that number is likely just the visible layer. Independent market analysis has previously caught real buying running as much as 10 times higher than what's disclosed. On top of that, China's built new Yuan-denominated gold infrastructure in Hong Kong, creating a settlement path that lets trading partners move gold and value without ever touching the dollar. And China isn't alone. Russia and India are running parallel plays, accumulating gold and shifting trade away from dollar dependency at the same time. Put together, this isn't one country's monthly filing. It's a slow, coordinated signal that major global economies are quietly repositioning around the dollar's role as the world's default reserve currency. So back to where we started, 20 tons reported, and almost certainly a much bigger number nobody's putting on paper. That's the story most outlets scrolled right past this week. Now you didn't. So here's what I want to know. What do you think China's real number actually is? Drop your guess in the comments. Twice the reported figure, 5 times, 10 times higher. I read every one of them. If you want to stay ahead of this as new PBOC data drops next month, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this pattern isn't slowing down anytime soon.